I would like to tell you a beautiful, charming story from a long, long time ago that sounds a lot like a fairy tale in terms of the lilt and the rhythm that comes along with telling this story. But it starts with a dream about a girl who peed so much that it covered all of Asia. And right now you're probably like, that is not why I tune into this program. I'm here for wholesome Bible material. We're getting there. It's just how we're going to get there is with a gigantic, legendary pee dream from the 6th century BC. There was this great king. His name was Astyages. He was king of the Medes, and he had a daughter named Mandane, who he presumably loved very much. And one night he had a dream that his daughter started peeing, and it was so much pee that it flooded all of Asia, which is the largest continent. If it was just like Australia or South America, you'd be like, that was a lot. But it was Asia. So he thought to himself, that's an abnormally large volume of pee. It probably means something. I'm going to go talk to my spiritual advisors, my mystical advisors. They were called magi. Yes, this is the same class of people who generations later would come to visit the baby Jesus. So he goes and he asks the magi, what's the deal with the pee dream? And they're like, that, you're right, Your Highness, that is a lot of pee. It is noteworthy. And what it means is that one of your descendants through your daughter Mandane is going to be a great and powerful ruler who will have an expansive kingdom. And he's like, okay, yeah, noted, great. And then later he marries his daughter Mandane to a Persian nobleman. And after that, he has another dream. And in this one, a vine grows from her womb. I don't even know how to visualize that. I just recommend not. And the vine spreads all across Asia and holds it in its tendrils. Old man Astyages is like, what the heck is, these are weird Asia dreams. And he goes to the Magi and they're like, yep, her child is going to become the great ruler over all of Asia that was supposed to be yours. He is a threat to you. And Astyages is like, I hate that. And so when his daughter has a kid, Astyages' own grandson, Astyages, he's so threatened and weird that he hires one of his right-hand men. He commissions a right-hand man. The guy's name was Harpagus. He's like, you got to go kill my grandson. And if you're like waiting for the happy fairy tale part, I don't know if we're going to get there. So Harpagus goes to kill the baby, but he can't do it. Harpagus has a son of his own. He's got a soft heart. So he's like, I'm not going to do it. Instead, I'm going to take the baby and I'm going to give it to some farmers, like the beginning of Disney's Hercules. And they raise up the kid and they're just like, we're going to raise you like a normal kid. But in the same way that young Clark Kent could not hide his superhero-ness from everybody else forever, so young Cyrus, who had the noble blood in him, could not hide that noble blood. He won at all the children's games. He attracted attention and people figured out he is exceptional. He must be of noble blood. And then when Astyages found out that his grandson was alive, he was real mad. But eventually, once the cat's out of the bag and everybody knows who Cyrus is, it's like, well, I mean, it seems like kind of just like cute knowledge, like, oh, this kid, he was a long lost king. It's so charming and fairy tale-ish. Well, it's not always very fairy tale-ish the way things work out. When people who were in charge thought that they didn't have any rivals or other claimants to the throne, and then they find out that they do have other claimants to the throne, they can get really erratic and do crazy things, like what Astyages did to the guy who spared his grandson's life at a famous banquet that I'm not going to tell you about here, but it is grisly. Likewise, within the Gospels, there is a king in disguise motif that runs through the whole thing. One of the first things we learn about Jesus early in the first Gospel, in the first chapter, is that he's descended directly from David. If there was a line of kings and there was still a throne to sit on, Jesus would be a claimant to that throne. He's descended from the line of David through Solomon. If there were a throne to be sat upon, and somebody were sitting on that throne, and Jesus were the legitimate claimant to that throne, you might get an Astyages Cyrus kind of situation. You might end up with a situation where the one who is sitting on the throne could find out that a baby is born who fulfills a bunch of ancient prophecy and who is destined to be a great king, and he might flip his lid and do something crazy and try to kill that baby. Or maybe all the babies, because he's not sure which baby it is. Oh, wait, That's exactly what happened. We see very early on in the Gospels that there are real stakes here to people just going out and being like, that's Jesus. He's the Son of God. The King of Israel, the true King, has returned. It seems like it'd be fairy tale, the cute and charming, like the end of the story, but that was a very risky thing to say. And I'm not just speculating by saying like, oh yeah, because in the ancient world, I have this one story of Cyrus and Arpagus from like 500 years earlier, and that could happen. No, as soon as there were even whispers of Jesus being the promised king, the promised Messiah, which interestingly, those whispers came to the ear of King Herod from the same source that Astyages heard them from, the Magi of the East. As soon as there was even a whisper of that, the crazed king who's insecure on his throne starts lashing out in wildly damaging ways that cause all kinds of collateral violence and collateral damage. With that motif in mind, with that storytelling theme that is present through all of the Gospels, it makes it all the more shocking that John opens in the first chapter alone with 3 references to the kingship of Christ, or Jesus being the Son of God, which, I mean, God is king. The Son of God would be heir to a throne. So any such claim is the kind of claim that would be very threatening to the kings of the day. Kings who did their best to present themselves as deity, descended from ancient gods like Hercules. They always fashioned themselves in those ways. I've got coins of Alexander the Great, Ptolemy the First, Alexander the Third. They all look like Hercules. Every single one of these kings from this era positioned themselves on coins in profile, wearing a lion headdress, looking like Hercules, and then they put Zeus on the back. They're trying to claim to be descended from the gods. Well, if you call Jesus the Son of God, that is a claim to royalty as well as to deity. If you call Jesus the King of Israel, obviously that is a claim to being the king. It's a claim to royalty. When we read the Gospels from a distance, we might be tempted to read them through the lenses of a mid-2000s Anne Hathaway movie. I can't picture which movie, but I feel like she was in like 5 of them, where she is a long-lost princess, and she should be queen of Grandalugia, or some other fake little European kingdom that's probably between France, Spain. They've got a monarchy there, and she's the long-lost princess, and the fun is finding out that she's actually the queen. Her life is going to be so exciting now. But it's not that kind of fairy tale. Think of more of the dark stories about people being locked away in a tower for their entire lives because they had royal blood and the pretender king on the throne did not want them to be there. Except here in the Gospels, the pretender king that doesn't want Jesus to be there, that is putting up resistance, isn't just one guy. It isn't just the emperor or the local client king, Herod. It's the whole world system. It's all the clown kings and powers and principalities and authorities of the world that know deep down we're pretender kings. We're temporaries. We're cheap knockoff stewards of the throne. We don't know what we're doing. Some of them, at least, identified true authority when they saw it in Jesus. These kings have a track record of being very paranoid and weird when they identify even the slightest of threats. Jesus is kind of the biggest of threats, even though he doesn't want to sit on their little paltry thrones. To him is given all authority and dominion over everything. So in a way, he's kind of no threat to their silly little pretender thing, but he is a threat to everything, to the whole system. Why am I telling you this whole story that started with a pea dream? It's to help the weight of what Nathanael declares in verse 49 hit us properly. Nathanael and Jesus just met, and Nathanael hears Jesus say to him, I saw you while you were under the fig tree before Philip called you. As we discussed last time around, for whatever reason, that's what Nathanael needed to hear. And he responds, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. Now look, this is obviously a very important moment. This is a very public confession of Christ from some guy, like John the Baptist. That's his job to confess Christ. But this fella, he's just figuring it out on the fly and boldly making this proclamation that, again, is not going to set in motion some sweet fairy tale where somebody gets to go on the adventure of experiencing royalty because they're long lost royalty. Jesus' discreet kingship and the fact that everybody doesn't know that yet and that his enemies haven't totally figured it out yet is something that's going to cause tension, not fantasy wonder. And that tension is going to set the timeline of the gospel, and it's going to ultimately lead to the culmination of God's redemptive plan, the centerpiece moment of God's whole redemptive plan, which is his own son, God in the flesh, taking on flesh, that is, and then going to the cross and dying for the sins of humanity with all of the implications that are in place along with that. Obviously, we got to talk more about, everything that comes along with this confession and where it fits with other confessions of Christ that we see in the Gospels. But today, I just wanted to consider it in light of the plot tension and how big a deal it is, how high stakes a thing it is for somebody to just come out and just blurt something like this out. You're the Messiah. You're the King of Israel. Those are much more dangerous, much more weighty words than people in our modern context might immediately imagine them to be. Sorry about the pea dream story, but not really that sorry about it at all. It just, it is what it is. These things happen. Some more of you reviewed my book on Amazon. I read them. Thank you. Rick, I saw yours. I totally know who you are. I recognize the name. That's really fun. Rick has known me since before, probably like I knew how to talk. Like I was really little when I met you, Rick, and you reviewed my book. And that means a tremendous amount. Thank you. Thanks to everybody who's checked out the book, The Lightning Fast Field Guide to the Bible. It's also cool if you don't. There's always a link down below in the description if you're interested. Okay, moving forward in John. Next time around. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.